the nation's finances, the nation's ability to meet our obligations, to appropriately fund our government when necessary, and only when necessary to borrow to meet those obligations. And the greatest reflection of where the people are politically is the House of Representatives. It's proportionate across the country, each person across the country equally represented by their member of Congress. And the American people gave us the majority back in November because we ran on fiscal responsibility. We ran on combating the Biden agenda. We ran against the reckless spending, the unprecedented amount of spending. For the first time in the history of the country, $10 trillion of new government spending in the first 2 years of administration. Now a record $32 trillion in national debt, approximately $100,000 per American citizen. We will spend this year about $20,000 per American citizen, only about 15% of which, only about $3,000 per citizen of which will be for the primary responsibility of the federal government, which is the safety and security of the nation. And back in January, when this new Congress formed, when we voted in a speaker, there was an agreement to go back to pre-COVID level spending for non-defense discretionary spending. This Republican majority was united for the first 5 months of the year, passing strong Republican legislation. That's what the country gave us the majority to do, to pass Republican legislation to reverse the harmful policies of the Biden, Schumer, and then Pelosi agenda. We passed the Limit, Save, Grow, which was a significant step towards fiscal responsibility, had lots of good components to it, like the H.R. 1 energy bill, the H.R. 2 border bill, and eliminating much of the Biden reckless, woke agenda that's harming the country. And then we passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act, or what I call the Failed Responsibility Act. We failed the American people with the FRA, which essentially kept in place all the Biden spending. Everyone who voted for that bill essentially owned the Biden agenda, the Biden spending, for the remaining 1.5 years of this Congress. However, it was said by leadership at that time that we will use the appropriations process, that the FRA was the ceiling, not the floor. But we would go back to pre-COVID level spending for non-defense discretionary, and we're calling on Republicans to do that very thing. Sadly and unfortunately, there are some Republicans in the House who don't want to cut spending. Worse yet, many Republicans in the Senate want to actually increase spending. But we are committed to using every tool at our disposal to going back to the 1.471 pre-COVID level spending for non-defense discretionary, allowing defense to stay at the current levels. And my colleagues behind us and our friends at the Freedom Works are united in doing that. That the Republican appropriations bills ought to implement Republican priorities, reversing the reckless, harmful, dangerous policies of the Biden administration, and take a step towards putting us on fiscal responsibility. So I'm proud to stand here with my colleagues from the House Freedom Caucus. I'm proud to stand here with our friends at Freedom Works, and I'll turn it over to Adam Brandon from Freedom Works, and then he'll introduce the next House Freedom Caucus speaker. Thank you, Brandon.